Blondie released an album, and on that album, she did a cover of one of Adam from Your Movie Sucks, like that YouTube channel. He has like a band, and like they covered one of his songs for one of those albums.
Sounds
like
great.
it's like the most
Sounds
random
really
thing.
good.
It's just an ad-lib sentence you just threw together.
Yeah, like she's keeping up with the children, but like, you know, I gotta say, Adam does not make good music.
Your music sucks, but it's also like you know, Debbie Harry's for the kids. Also, like I think
she's for the children.
She's for the children. Yeah. I do think like I do know a little bit of Debbie Harry. She's the person who said, "Go ahead, make my day." And then she also like talked to the chair she thought was Obama. Like, wait, am I getting the reference wrong?
You're talking about Clint Eastwood?
Yeah, Dirty Harry. Isn't that like, yeah, it's Clint Eastwood. It's like,
I never would have made that connection.
The like 3-dimensional chess you just did to get to that. Okay.
Oh no, I'm too stupid for that one.
Most chess is 3-dimensional chess.
It's true.
Anyways, let's start the episode. Click.
Remember that record that you bought me like 2 years ago? Well, I just remembered that it's sitting in the closet. So I called you up just to tell you I've been meaning to listen to that. I've been meaning to listen to that. Why don't you come over and talk about it? Ooh. Why don't you come over and talk about it?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome to I've Been Meaning to Listen to That, the podcast where we go through albums we've been meaning to listen to and use it as a conduit to learn about each other and our guests. I'm Andrew Ambrose Lee. And this is a new development. We have officially split the show in two. We pulled a King Solomon over here, and we decided to split the show in two, where half of the show is pop music and half of the show is hip hop music. The hip hop music side of the show will include me, Stenley, and John, and then our pop music show is me and the great Dakota Foss, everybody. So, hey,
hello.
Jesus Christ, that was so bad.
I didn't. I wasn't sure which direction you were going with that, but we got there.
Debatable if we got there, but tell us a little bit about yourself for those who might not know who you are.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm Dakota Foss. I was on a couple episodes before. I write reviews. One of those guys that I listen to everything, little bit of this, little bit of that, and I'm happy to be here. That's all you get for now. You got to tune in for the rest.
Totally. And let's introduce our amazing guests. You might know them from the Queer Quadrant. It's Jordan Gustafson, everybody. Hi.
Hey, how are you? I'm very excited to be here to talk about Mother, my queen, my idol, the person who I, worship every day. This is a very exciting day because, when you're a movie podcaster, you don't get to talk about music as much. So today we're talking about music, so that's very exciting.
Gaga's got some movies, though.
Well, of course. Look, sorry.
I don't got to tell you that.
We don't even need to get into that. Was I watching American Horror Story Season 5 Hotel just because of Lady Gaga? Yes. These are things I cannot deny,
How far does that go, though? Do you sit through Sin City, A Dame to Kill For?
I saw Sin City, A Dame to Kill For just because I'm a completionist, and I had seen the first one, and I was like, fuck, I guess I just got to see A Dame to Kill For. And I saw it, and I was like, well, I should have killed myself because I didn't enjoy this movie. Sorry to Sin City, A Dame to Kill For, but,
Was Gaga, in fact, a dame to kill for?
I mean, I would have killed for her in any world,
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So, Jordan, tell us a little bit about your history of Gaga. Your just like were you first introduced and everything like that.
I mean, so Gaga obviously burst onto the scene with the Fame in 2008, and I was at such a young, impressionable age at that point. So I would have been 10, 13 years old when that album came out, doing math. And I think like when you're 13 and you're in early, I guess like middle school slash that transition area before high school, junior high, your like music taste is such a like malleable thing, and you're actually starting to like discover like what you like instead of just like what your parents like. And at that time you're also like very aware of pop music because everyone is listening to like, especially at that time, like the top 100 in the radio and everything like that, so you're hyper aware of things that are playing in the pop sphere. And so I think like the Fame came out, and I like with Just Dance specifically, and I think everyone knew that song. I knew that song, and then immediately was just like kind of locked into her. And I think whether it was like the performance, the theatricality of it all, the music itself, I think like what she was bringing to the stage, so to speak, just like really stood out to me. And I think like since then, I've kind of just been like an unwavering fan, a little monster, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't really know how else to like put it. I think it was just like the first album got me, and I kind of have been there since. Sure, there are some albums maybe that like Cheek to Cheek, for example, like I respect, but it's not necessarily like my cup of tea per se. But like I love a swing, you know, and I love that she loves that kind of stuff. And like I'm just a big fan of like her representation within the queer community and like what she has done there. And in terms of like being an advocate, I think like her acting, I think A Star Is Born and she was snubbed, you know, so like I'm just a fan. And the only thing I probably won't ever stand up for is Joker for All You Do. So, you know, ultimately, like we do have mistakes, you know, we are all human, you know?
You know, I watched that movie like
I'm so sorry.
No. Hold up. Like maybe this is like a little bit of a scorching take. I saw it like 2 months ago. I liked it. I'm just gonna leave that hang there. I liked it.
I'm so happy for you. And I think that is such a beautiful thing that one can have that experience, you know, like we do all need to enjoy art in our own way.
Here's my
thank you.
It's a waste of Gaga for sure.
That's the issue with it. Yes.
That's a big issue. She doesn't get to sing a lot.
And when they have her sing, they have her sing poorly.
Yeah.
They like don't let her actually use her vocals well.
Okay, no, I got to push back on that because Gaga, they out in the universe. Nobody made Gaga do that, but Gaga. She got into the mind of Harley Quinn, whatever, Quinzel, Dr. Quinzel.
Yeah.
What, actually, she's not even a doctor in that one.
Patient Quinzel.
Whatever Quinzel's name is, which is probably Harley, actually. But she was method acting, and she like trained herself to not be able to sing like she normally sings.
I think per notes though from like Todd, you know, or someone like that's my feeling. I think that's like a directorial choice that like she then as an actor like took and like ran with, you know, versus at least that's my POV, because like Joaquin also sings like that, so it feels like across the board they're both doing like a speak sing with like kind of like quiet undertones instead of something brassy. Whereas like I feel like the one big song that they actually have when they're breaking out of jail is like the one time both of them are fully singing, and it's like the one rapturous scene I feel like in the movie that I was like, oh, this is interesting, you know. But
totally. I mean, if you want to talk about a big swing,
that's a swing.
That was a swing. I could have done without like, you know, the gratuitous, you know, essay stuff at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But other than that though, I was like, I liked it more than the first Joker movie.
But what is it about Gaga though that like really you talk about like her being a great representation of the queer community. What is it how would you? I would love to hear you expound on that, and then also what her artistry means for you specifically.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think there have been way smarter people who have like dug into the actual parts of this, but I think like for her, like since the beginning, she recognized that, and like also like the communities in which that she herself was getting her art started in, like going to drag bars, etc., and singing. And I think like she was surrounded by queer people and knew that queer people were like a huge base for her music, and has just kind of been like a very vocal like defense and like advocate for whether it be like trans people, queer people, people of all like backgrounds and ethnicities. And I think like that in of itself, when you're a pop star, is really important, especially like when you are someone who is like, I think like if you are a celebrity who has like a major queer following, it is important for you to like recognize that and like be a voice for that, whether even if you are not necessarily of queer, like if you're not queer yourself. And I just think that she has done it in a way that others should look at it. And I think like obviously like one could always do more or less or whatever, but I think like all that she's done has been great. I just think she is just like her constant evolution and the way in which she moves through her phases. I don't think like a lot of people with Mayhem, me in particular, I like also was like a huge fan of it. I think it's like her second best album, probably, if not best. Because it felt like very like much like a return to form. But I also love like a Joanne, and I love all sort of like these ways in which she's like morphed her art and experimented and like tried different things out. And I think that as like an artist, but like on the movie sense of things, I think like that for me is what's interesting. Is I don't think as an artist it's interesting if someone just does the same thing again and again. I think it's interesting if an artist like evolves and changes and tries things out and like constantly like keeps bringing their influences in and trying out new things. And I think for her to see that, and she herself, like whether it be like at award shows, et cetera, using like her image as like like a train basically for trying things out in experimentation and being, whether it be like the meat dress and or things like that. Like I think like that controversy in of itself and making herself like a visual artist in terms of like her appearance and everything is also incredible. Like she is just like campy. She's theatrical. Like she is a theater girl through and through. And as like a theater person, I think like that is one of the most beautiful things. Like when you can express yourself in such a clear form like that. So whether it be like her style, her music, etc., I think that she's someone to like admire and look up to as an artist when you are so fully a creative in that way.
Is that something you try to carry in your own art? Is that something you try to do yourself?
For sure. I mean, like, I think like if as like a filmmaker, I feel like the most interesting thing that one could do is like move through genres and move through like experimentation and like try out different forms, and I think like for me, like whether it be like a quiet indie or then like a brassy campy musical, I think like the experimentation and figuring out like what your voice is within the different forms is interesting to me. Like for like any filmmaker, I think like it's cool when your art is something that you can morph and you can grow, and it's not just constrained within this little like I only do this one thing and I do it again and again and again. And like obviously there are artists who do that and it's impressive and it's beautiful when they can do that. But I think like and to like just to morph your art in a way, I think it's just cool, and to like experiment, because I think like that's the whole point of life, is to not just do one thing, but to try as much as you can out and try to like be as full of an artist as you can be. Yeah. Mm.
So I have like such a push and pull relationship with her, because as we'll get into with the Fame Monster, I think the beginning of her career, it was just lightning in a bottle. Like I can't think of like a better start to a pop star's career than Gaga had in terms of visuals, attitude, music, like her approach to the rest of the culture. And then I feel like I feel like then she got a little too into her head after art pop. Art pop has kind of received a lot of reappraisal recently from people kind of going back and being like, oh, this was actually really good. And I don't know if I love art pop as much as a lot of people do, but I feel like after art pop, she kind of changed from being like this person who was really almost like a cultural / like pop, like dominatrix almost, where she's just like really dominant and like standing into her own power and commanding like a lot of things, you know. And then it took a back seat to her trying to convince like critics and the audience and everything that she's like this capital A artist by doing stuff like Cheek to Cheek, stripping down the sound like to more conventional songwriting fare with Joanne, and doing like A Star Is Born, which I think is a good movie, but I kind of felt like she was trying to convince me of something that I already like wholeheartedly believed, that she's like this insanely talented artist who can really do whatever the hell she wants. And I've stuck by her like through everything, listening to it. I actually was again, maybe this is a hot take, I was also a pretty big fan of the Joker album that she put out last year, where she's just covering like the Great American Songbook
standards.
Yeah. I loved that. I thought that was better than Joanne. Like, if I'm being honest.
Wow.
You know, we could go there. We don't have to.
Dakota likes Joker too.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I'm about to Jokerify Jordan over here, I think.
He's a bit twisted. Like,
yeah, you know, you wouldn't understand my the dark machinations of my mind. But yeah, Chromatica, I thought was like a pretty good pandemic album. I feel very attached to that just because of the environment in which it dropped. And I love Mayhem. I think it's a pretty strong return to form, kind of like a back to basics, like, but not quite. Like, I think it's like a nice evolution and maturation of like the original vision of Gaga. That being said, you know, to put all my cards on the table, I think that the Fame Monster, what we're discussing today, I think is head and shoulders the best thing that she's ever done, and a strong contender for best pop album.
Wow.
Of the 21st century.
Wow.
I mean, I won't argue with saying like best pop album period, because I think you could just throw any Gaga album on there and I'd be like, hell yeah, brother.
Well, let's I think, Jordan, you mentioned a little bit ago that that Mayhem was a return to form and maybe her second best album. Would you consider this one number one, like Fame Monster, Fame, kind of?
No.
What would you say?
I feel like if we're talking about like, if you're thinking holistically, like pop culture dominance, I think, or like what has been the like, I think like Born This Way at least feels like, if you're looking like collectively on the whole, such like a step up in terms of just not like a step up, but I think it like encompasses both like the Fame and then like the Fame Monster, and then sort of like maybe a little bit of art pop that will like come after it. I just think it kind of has like that holistic feel to it. And also I think with Born This Way, it, especially like for the queer community, et cetera, is like obviously like a major album. I feel like I change day by day in terms of what my favorite Gaga is, whether it be like that, art pop. I feel like, and then this way, I guess we'll talk about it with like the Fame / the Fame Monster, where I feel like the Fame Monster Deluxe Edition is probably the best album, but that's like cheating because I think it's obviously like comboing two albums, but I do
like
feel
26 songs long, right?
Yeah, but I'm like, that it does feel like a holistic album necessarily. But then like with Mayhem, I'll listen to Vanish Into You and I'm like, this is the greatest song ever written. I will cry my eyes out, you know, like that, into Killa, Zombie Boy, like that stretch I think is incredible. And like Abracadabra, obviously, like I think like it is a great evolution for her, and the darkness that's kind of like persisted through a lot. But then like I can't not say like I stand like an art pop. So I guess like my answer is I don't know, because it's also like my favorite songs will change day by day. Like GUI and Guy, whatever, was like huge for me, and like the gendering of everything. And I think Gaga specifically, like how people like attacked her in terms of gender is beyond like reproach and like was so fucked up at the time, but also like how she responded to it and sort of like the ways in which she played with gender was obviously very big for me, and then like my experimentation with gender. So like I think like that is very important. So the answer is maybe this album is the best, but it depends on how I'm feeling. I don't know. Today, sure.
well, let's go back to 2009, 2008, 2010, whenever this was coming out. I was enjoying the Thursday night NBC lineup. I was watching Community and Parks and Rec and The Office. Like when this album came out, where were you? What was the headspace?
So it's 2009 November. So November, my birthday month. So, you know, what a birthday gift. It's 2009. What year does that put me in? I guess that puts me in like 8th grade, maybe. So I guess I was just at school. I remember having a school dance to and like hearing, you know, like Bad Romance, Telephone Alejandro, like that was just never not played. I remember downloading the entire album onto my iTunes and like having some of the songs labeled incorrectly because if I was just like YouTube to MP3ing or like illegally downloading everything, you know. I don't remember what exactly I was doing at the time. All I remember is that it came out and I was like, holy shit. And then the Bad Romance music video like changed everything. Like that is just like such a staggering accomplishment in terms of just visuals, you know. And I think like especially as like early on and just throughout her career, her music videos in particular are always just, you know, when people talk about like gay guy music video night, I feel like Gaga is a perennial staple in those just because of how fucking good her music videos are. And like Bad Romance in particular is like maybe the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, let me paint a picture for you for like how big the Bad Romance video was like at the time, because I like I've always been somebody kind of going like, you know, not necessarily with like the main hot thing. I got to be different and doing like the other less hot thing. So I never watched a lot of MTV. I watched a ton of VH1. And I loved watching the VH1 Top 20 countdown, and Bad Romance was like a fixture at the top of that list. But that music video, like her music videos were dominating all of 2009 because The Fame came out in 2008, I believe. So you had Just Dance, you had Poker Face, you had Love Game, you had Paparazzi. Maybe even a little brief cameo from Hey Hey, Nothing Else I Can Say. You know,
great song.
say? Great song. And then they drop Bad Romance. That's like, you know, it's got such a dramatic intro to it. You know, with the House of Gaga. Like, and you know, it's just so dark and mysterious and sexy and like kind of gross too. But like, it also had those costumes in it that were somewhat like an allusion to Max from Where the Wild Things Are, which also came out in theaters like the month earlier, because that was when I turned 18 and I saw that in theaters and I was like, whoa, I'm watching like a childhood movie, but I'm an adult now. But like it just felt like such a moment. Like, when she dropped Bad Romance, like she already had all of this momentum going with all of the hot singles from The Fame, and then she just drops this like juggernaut of a track in Bad Romance that's like it just felt like her rise would just not fucking stop, you know. It's like she came out like you know, came into the universe as Lady Gaga, and she just like projected this air of confidence that she is less a person and more just a concept, like, and just was such a student of the game and understood like iconography and how to be with the press and all of this stuff. And Bad Romance just took that to the next level, and it was like at that point there were no doubters left in the room, and it like everyone was just gonna shut up and see what she had to say. And this album, EP, whatever the hell we want to call it, it's just interesting and incredible that it came out so quickly after the Fame, and was kind of in a similar manner to Charlie XCX with the Brat remix album. Like, this is just a response to the first year of her being Lady Gaga, or like a reflection on that, and clarification on her viewpoint of fame, fame monsters or whatever. So I don't know. This really felt like a splitting of the atom, like, again, for her. I think it did cement her from being like a curiosity at the time. It's kind of hard to put yourself in like the headspace of the 2000s, like cultural
Cursed
landscape.
headspace to live in. Yeah.
Cursed headspace, but like at the same time, like a simpler time, because 80% of the zeitgeist back then was just like whatever MTV and VH1 and whatever was like shoveling out. Yeah, it was just like okay, yeah, Lady Gaga is she's not just at the time, like, she's not just this like Madonna imitator, as a lot of her detractors were saying.
Totally.
It truly felt like the next step
iteration,
in what Madonna was like originally setting out to do.
I think like Bad Romance probably remains to this day like when people like detractors or people who are scared of Gaga, I feel like this is like the song and the visual specifically that people are scared of, because it is like haunting. Like, that music video is scary, and I think like what makes Gaga so special is like she loves horror, and she's not afraid to like make her shit a little scary and a little unsettling and like kind of go there. And I feel like that music video in particular, I remember seeing like the controversies or people like getting scared and like the devil worship and all that sort of fucking bullshit. That was
so
a good
funny genre of YouTube back in the day. Was like
so
the people posting Illuminati breakdowns. I remember Illuminati breakdowns of this and Rihanna's Umbrella.
Yes.
Like, iconic.
We were so different back then. And it's like, I think what makes Mayhem so funny as an album, and like why I think it's such a fun return, is that you immediately, especially after like her Coachella set, you had those same people kind of coming back out of the woodwork being like, Gaga's worshiping the devil again, and here's like why like this performance is bad and like what it means, like Satan, etc. And then like that sort of shit is so fun. And like Alejandro is like such a clear then step to like Judas, etc. So it's like you see the evolution of all of these steps for her within this album, which is so fun. But yeah, Bad Romance, like that might be the music video. You know, if you're looking like at her entire career, you're like, what is the one music video? What is the one song that sort of like encapsulates everything? And it might be that off this album.
Yeah, I got to experience that. I must have seen it when I was a kid, when it came out. I must have seen it, but just like rewatching it for this, I rewatched it like 5 to 10 times. It's just such an addicting video. Just like, it's so iconic. Like it's an embarrassment of riches of like great iconic costumes just stacked on top of each other. The payoff, it's still pretty subversive to this day, of this like killing your pimp, basically. This person who bought you, like, it's still very subversive and like evocative and just haunting and scary and disturbing and awesome. It's so great. Was this also like, I don't really know this time very well. Was this also a time where pop music wasn't as treated as seriously as it is now? Or
I mean, yeah, no, I feel like poptimism has like definitely shifted. Well, it's kind of thing. I feel like it's ebbed and flowed over the years, you know? I mean, this is also like, again, it's a huge nostalgia time, but like, I fucking love the like 2008 through like 2011 pop music, because it's like obviously when I was like at that certain era, but I do feel like you had certain albums and certain artists that were coming out that like zeroed in on my brain. And like, it was such a time then where I feel like the pop music that like came right. I feel like pop music between like 2008 and 2011 was good. And then that like 2013 through like 2018 stretch was like a fucking like abysmal, horrible mess. And then I feel like we're kind of swinging back into like having like some actual artistry in pop music. At least that's how I feel. So I think like at the time, like, but like Gaga was so different. But then you had like Beyonce obviously coming out with an album, and then like obviously Telephone on This, which was like transcendent. I mean, I don't know, like Dakota, how did you feel at the time?
I think at the time, looking at the end of the 2000s, when, you know, I mean, that's what gave us the term recession pop. There was so much going on in virtually every scene in the late 2000s, as you had like new technology coming out and sort of the democratization of like music creation through social media and like the internet being normalized, that there were all these like new sounds that, as is usually the case when new sounds come out, critics and a lot of people, they just don't get it. You know, they fold their arms and they're like, I don't like all these buzzing synths and, you know, the deep vocal like effect, the yeah that's like in the back of a lot of these songs. That being said, I like, this was a different time, and Gaga helped change this, but even Gaga's The Fame is not immune to this. Like, pop albums around this time were not really like, they were very different from what they are now. Like, in that a lot of them were extremely fragmented. They were operating essentially off a checklist. Okay, we need 2 power ballads. We need the dance single. Like, the ballad's going to be our 3rd single for the radio. Like, they weren't really trying to say all that much, I think, as a whole. And honestly, I feel that way about The Fame, even though The Fame is a little more coherent than a lot of pop records. Like, there's still like a lot of songs that just kind of come out of nowhere. There's no like grand thesis. That's different with The Fame Monster though. And Gaga's like, the gravitational pull of Gaga did a lot to change what people thought that pop could be. And, you know, like, as unfortunate as this is now, like, I also think that there was a huge, there was an element at play here of crossing worlds, kind of like worlds crossing and touching and different audiences coming together, with Kanye giving Gaga like a massive cosign. And, you know,
I mean, here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing. I think Kanye now is like a horrible person and like, you know, 100 million like negative things. That said, like at the time, like I can't like lie and say that like Kanye's music at that time was like transcendent and like obviously like informed a lot of like pop music, rap, etc. Like those early albums were incredible. And like totally, him and Gaga at that time were like the people, you know?
Yeah. And like to your point earlier, like I think that, you know, Kanye was kind of like leading like hip hop in a similar capacity, changing people's minds about what like the scope of hip hop could be, in the same way that Gaga would. And I mean, like, you know, there's so many other just like fun wrinkles at the time. Like, I think of like both of them kind of held a middle finger up, being like, yeah, you know, gay people exist, deal with it. Like, there was the interview where Gaga was asked if she secretly had a penis, because there was like a rumor that she,
so insane,
you know, that you had, yeah, which is insane. And she was like, yeah, I do. So what?
Like, fuck you.
Like, fuck you. And I always think back, you know, Kanye too, like being like, yeah, you know, like gay people are fine, which at the time was like, whoa,
like,
dude.
No, totally.
Yeah.
It's like, it was like wicked controversial at the time. And I think like that was what I mean, like Rick bringing it back to the beginning. Like, I think like having artists who were like, fuck you, like deal with these like queer people and like don't ask me about like this sort of stuff was so important to like queer people at that time, when you didn't have a voice, when the culture was so against you, when like don't ask, don't tell, like all this shit was just building. And also like that era of pop culture journalism and like news and discourse was at its like worst in how people looked at women and how people looked at like specifically like pop stars who were women, etc.
Perez Hilton.
Exactly. Like Perez Hilton, like literally burn in hell. So like, I think that is like what makes like Gaga, especially like at that time, to be able to be so singular in her artistry and also like not cave to the whims of like the culture trying to press upon you, which is, and like, I think that you look at what is so impressive about her is like, she has lasted so long from like when she burst out. Like, it's been such a journey for her, and she's lasted in ways other artists like have not, and like how other artists have sort of fallen off and by the wayside, whereas like Mayhem is like going to be like one of her biggest tours, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's so beautiful for that. But then you look at like the artists that she's inspired, like Chappell Roan doesn't exist without Gaga, you know, and obviously like Gaga doesn't exist without like Bowie and Madonna, etc. And like, that's sort of like how times morph. But like Gaga's influence is like unprecedented, especially like at that time. Yeah. Should we talk about the songs or like how do we get into it?
Let's get into, I think we talked a lot about themes, like by just talking around her and this album and this time. But yeah, let's talk about what this, like the songs are about. Like, what did you take away from the content and like what the songs are saying?
Yeah. I mean, like, I think like obviously like the macro theme is fame writ large, which I think is like impossible to kind of overlook, which I think is interesting. And I think like, as you were saying, like the gothic sort of more darker look at fame as a reaction to sort of like the fame is super interesting for her. I think like it's so fun to see, and like as I haven't re-listened to it in a row, God knows how long. And so it was fun to listen to it where like some songs like Monster feels like a sibling to like Zombie Boy, etc. You know, where you see her kind of coming back to these similar melodies or just like themes, etc. throughout her career about like love and romance and how I'm feeling about the people, etc. But how about you? Because if you were coming into this as like a Gaga newbie, what was your like interpretation of this for yourself?
Yeah. Well, first of all, like to build off your earlier points, my thought was like the content of the album really isn't about fame. It's not about like the paparazzi hounding her or like her body being dissected, but it's about herself and like how her world is changing after becoming famous. And she's like interrogating herself as if she's a monster herself, and like, you know, also externalizing these different her vices and her fears as monsters. She said that in the Torre interview. That's super iconic, where she's wearing that Warhol wig. Yeah, I guess like my thought here, my big thought was like, my big analysis is that she's using the genre of horror and pop to, you know, for feminist expression and for processing her trauma and like in this new world she's in this new threshold she's crossed. She's using the genre of horror to kind of process some of these things and kind of regain her power, regain her autonomy, and then dealing with like fame. As I think there's a lot of like motifs around like pimps and like traffickers in this album, like in the Bad Romance video, there's that whole thing, and then she kills her abusers in the telephone video and the paparazzi video. Yeah, that's just some of the stuff I wrote down.
Yeah, I think it's like a fun, like a feminism where you're like regaining your own independence from like the machine, you know, and making sure that you yourself are like staying true to like who you are and like the fears of losing that, I think is like a big thing that permeates throughout it for sure as well, because I feel like a lot of it is like her being like nervous about or like fearing what fame can do to her versus just like, I feel like a lot of the conversations of fame are just like the critiques of like the press and I can't have a time by myself. Whereas like Gaga's is so introspective, which I think is what makes it more nuanced and interesting rather than just like, I'm hounded everywhere, mamma mia, you know?
Yeah, that's like, That's a really good point. Like the big thing about this album that I think is like kind of hard to really appreciate the magnitude of now, but just like the complete understanding that she had of like what it means to be a celebrity. Like I think that we take for granted how much she did to like crystallize that for all the artists that have come after who like now struggle with like social media fame and whatnot. But like to really break it down, like, you know, layer by layer, on this and the fame a little bit after Born This Way, Art Pop. But yeah, just kind of like making this concept-ish album about that. There's just like a lot of love and care that goes into putting out this relationship that she has with fame and that others have had with fame. Like Dance in the Dark is such a beautiful song, you know, shouting out like Sylvia Plath and Princess Diana, like and all these others that, you know, died because in part due to their, you know, relationship with being known, or a version of them being known. And yeah, like, you know, we're processing her traumas in the limelight, and how the limelight can be used to hide like from her actual real self a little bit. And to your point, Jordan, about, you know, like Zombie Boy and like Monster, I think that like listening to this in the wake of Mayhem is super interesting, because both of these, I think that there's a lot of allusions on Mayhem, especially towards this album. Like both album covers are black and white. You know, like I don't think that that's like a coincidence there. And you know that you have the Princess Di illusion on Perfect Celebrity, which is, you know, what is Perfect Celebrity if not like another stab at this? Yeah, 100%. Just like her at, you know, 45 or however old she is now. You know, I know this is essentially just a glaze fest from me, but like the fact that she had such a mature understanding of herself, like her traumas and celebrities and paparazzi and pop culture, like in her early 20s is just insane to me.
100%.
And I think that there's like so many like just little flourishes on this thing that I think are just so fun and inventive. Like, you know, you can go back and re-listen to Teenage Dream or whatever around this time, which is a great album. You know, we can say
rips.
Yeah. You know, we like that album is fantastic. You know, we can say Katy Perry, please stop now, but like she had a good thing going back then. But like, yeah, but you listen to this album, and in my opinion, it's just on such like another level. Like again, Dance in the Dark, Dance in the Dark to me, like when I was like little, I was obsessed with Believe by Cher, and
great song.
Great song. And I think that this song like has a lot of like those elements like kind of in there, like that little kind of synthy guitar thing that you know what I'm talking about. But like yeah, just like a lot of like fun things that it's playing with from pop culture at the time, pop culture from the idols that she worshipped, that are in there. And like there's a lot of stabs at things that I think that she has since further clarified and continued to try to do. But I don't think that she's topped herself here. Like Speechless, that is my single #1 best Gaga song of all time. I don't think it's ever going to be topped. Wow. You know, she's got, I love it. I think that there's so much feeling in that song. Talking about her fear that her dad is going to die to his alcoholism, and this like Bowie, Bruce Springsteen worship thing that she has, the entire Joanne album was her just trying to do that. And it's like, you didn't have to make Joanne, you made Speechless. Like,
but she did make Joanne, and it rips, and it's so good.
I don't know. Like, I'll respectfully disagree there, but speech, like, there is just so much emotion packed into this thing where it makes me well up sometimes, just like reading the lyrics to any of these songs, except for, maybe this is the hot take of it all. I think that Telephone is the worst song here.
Whoa.
I'm glad you're saying this. I feel like Telephone is a little overrated. And not to be like, I think it's a bad song, but I do feel like personally, like re-listening to it all and just like having such an awareness of Gaga's like discography, I guess. Like Telephone is the one that always stands out to me where I'm like, it's a good song, I think personally, but I do think it's not like one of her all time, like I wouldn't put it in like the top 10 or anything, whereas I feel like some people in pop culture would. Like, I would be curious now more than ever to see like what the Telephone 2 would be, and like how these two artists who have changed so much since then would come back together, because I feel like Gaga is clearly very open to it, whereas Beyonce is obviously the one who is holding it up. So I would be curious, like, what the fuck that song would be, But
I think it's super interesting, like listening to that song now, because it literally sucker punches you in the face with the 2000s version Beyonce, which is a very different Beyonce to what we have now. Because now, Beyonce is all like, I'm not going to post anything on social medias except for a link to my Levi's campaign. Whereas back then, Beyonce was everywhere.
Beyonce was in the Pink Panther.
She was in Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me.
Like, she was
Gold member.
A completely different artist and like pop culture figure then.
Totally. And Telephone is a good enough song, but Beyonce's part takes me out. Like that aged about as well as any glass of milk that you leave out. I do not like that at all. That part.
I like the modular nature. I think it's cool. Like
it's the fact that when she comes in, the percussion completely changes to that like halftime. Where it's basically like, hey guys, just so you know, we got Beyonce here, and like I don't know, it takes me out, and it feels less like a. Actually, no, it feels like a Marvel team up, honestly. And do I want like that from Gaga? Like, do I really need oh, what? They got an Iron Man in my Thor movie? Like, that's crazy. Like, I don't need that. And this period of time for pop culture and pop music in particular was really egregious with the features, because this is when you always had somebody from hip hop or something coming in for a verse, or like you had a pop artist doing the chorus on, a rap song because they couldn't be bothered for that. And so this kind of felt like very much a product of that time.
Counterpoints, the I be dancing, dance is just so that moment alone makes up for the whole thing. Just like it feels like my understanding is like Beyonce literally phoned this in terms of like they were not together when they were recording the song. So it's just like so it's like, it doesn't feel like when it climaxes, it doesn't feel like it's a duet. It feels like there's like a little bit of Beyonce in the end, but it's like still a Gaga song all the way through. But that little moment of just like, oh, this is the sum of the parts meeting together, and like the Kevin, I think the video is a lot of fun. I like
video is very fun.
Yeah, I like her cigarette sunglasses. That's very fun.
The video is great.
Yeah, like, the video is so good. I think like the Alejandro music video with like the gay men cabaret is incredible. Like that is just a piece of beautiful art there too, you know? But I mean, all the music videos off this are pretty fucking great.
Yeah. And the live performances too. Like that live performance of Speechless, where she's cracking the glasses on her piano, like in time with the drum rolls. Like, if you don't like that, what are you doing?
I think the opening 3 are like, I think it's just like the Bad Romance, Alejandro, Monster, and then I guess honestly Speechless, 1, 2, 3, 4 is like a great run that you get right there. I think that's just like a really strong way to open an album. I think all of the songs have like their own identity and their feeling, but like they're so catchy and great, and it's so easy to go back to them. And then I do love ending on Teeth. I do really enjoy Teeth a lot too. So Happy I Could Die, as I would say, probably the only low light for me. I don't think it's like a bad song, but it's also the one that I probably listen to the least off the album. Those first 4, it's just like a fastball down the middle, like just unprecedented sort of behavior. Sort of like with Mayhem, how she just kind of like comes out with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're just like, Jesus, like just nonstop bangers. So yeah, I would say that was probably the highlight for me, for sure. The beginning part of that album is just spectacular. And I mean, the thing is, it's also like 8 songs. You're in and you're out within like 30 minutes. So
yeah, there's no nonsense here except for the Beyonce part.
Iron Man, what are you doing here? Like, I do like the way I think the album resolves itself with Telephone. It starts with like this like push and pull of this bad romance of just, and like in that could be interpreted in many ways. It could be like a relationship, it could be a relationship to fame, and it's just like this like kind of toxic thing and like this toxic attachments. And then it like in Telephone, she's like, I'm kind of busy, but then it kind of like she devolves back, with the next 2 songs. And then it's perfect to like circle back around to like Bad Romance. I really like that. I like that all the songs, especially like, Bad Romance, Alejandro, and, the Telephone video. I like that the videos add more, like it feels like a bigger meal. It feels like a bigger meal with the video, but it works as just a song. It's just so strong. Like the construction of the song is just so excellent. We were talking about the Katy Perry song, and I feel like when you re-listen to that, there's like a thinness to the construction. It's great in spite of it, but like there's a thinness to the construction of those songs where I feel like this is just so maximal.
Yeah, like I just like you saying that, I'm like thinking back, I'm like, damn, like that song, like in retrospect, in comparison to this whole album, is just like Coughing Baby versus Atomic Bomb.
And they were like they were like the
totally,
yeah. Like they were neck and neck at that time. Yeah, I like the sci-fi, the scary buzzsaw synths are great in Bad Romance. This album like reminds me a lot of the movie Alien, or a lot. Like you brought up she looks like the Where the Wild Things Are kid looks like, but I think the imagery I got was like the Xenomorph, where it's just like this like penis monster that like
like mask over her, basically like it's a formless face. Yeah,
the leather and like her spine looking all like altered in CGI.
Even the way that she's like doing this,
claws.
Right. Yeah.
Not claws. She's just doing this.
Yeah. Which, like, by the way, might be a little problematic, like the way she like configures her hands and stuff like that. But I really like Monster a lot too. Like there's quite a Nosferatu situation going on here. Like someone should make a fan cam of just like this.
That boy is a monster.
Yeah. That mustachioed vampire fella. There's something there of like the lyrics are saying, I want this. This is what I want. And then the video is like her being taken against her will, basically. There's something there to be said about that. And there's that juxtaposition of like her looking super cool in the high fashion outfits, and then a shot of her like looking at the audience like and crying and like pleading, like you're seeing this too. Like there's this like whole, like, I do think of this as like her as a horror auteur in a way. Like she is in complete control of her craft. She is expressing her fears and her quirks and her sensibilities with such an incredible amount of craft that she makes the arts. She turns it into like something that is accepted by pop, which is like really, really incredible.
She really is like in this era. It kind of stops after Born This Way. This era really takes after like obviously a lot from Madonna, but also like Michael Jackson too, where it's like, you know, taking yeah, just the Thriller stuff and everything. But in terms of like, turning each of these music videos into like a full blown event. And I also think that it's like a pretty decent marker with how things were talked about and consumed back then versus like now. Because as Jordan, I think it was you who said this earlier, but like it's like turns these music videos, turn it into like a full course meal, like, you know, or experience. Whereas like now, like there's so much, you know, if we're looking at like Taylor Swift, you know, like talking like the MCU-ification of pop, you know, she just has these like visuals that are apropos of nothing except herself. And like, you know, just these little like Easter eggs where it's like, oh, I saw the number 13, you know, let me get my clown makeup. Are they announcing Reputation, Taylor's version this time? Oh, what are you up to, Blondie? Like, shut up. You know, you look at like the music videos now, like from Gaga at this time period, where it's just like no bullshit. You're getting like cool ass visuals that, you know, have actual themes. They have depth to them, and sometimes like they really are just like. It's very in your face, but it's an experience, you know, like the Telephone music video. I'm not going to write like a thesis on how it's like the deepest thing ever, but it's a fucking rush. It's dope as hell. Like same thing with, you know, some of her later music videos, like Marry the Night, you know, that's fucking fun as hell. And, you know, sometimes these things can just be these, you know, they can say something deeper. And that's great that they have like the depth that they do, but they're their own thing. They're their own experience that you just need to watch that one thing and you get everything out of it. You know, it doesn't have to be this never-ending carrot on a stick. And the cool thing about Gaga here is like she's giving you the stick and the carrot at the same time the whole time. Like she's beating you over the head with the stick and surrounding you with the entire bushel of carrots or whatever at the grocery store. Like look at this embarrassment of riches. Like you know, like it's just everything that you would possibly want out of a pop song or a pop record is here. Yeah. And it's so refreshing that you just get that. And you get an experience that isn't afraid to just like sprint in just delivering you an amazing time. Like Gaga is Gaga at this time with the Fame Monster is obsessed with giving her audience the best possible experience that she can. And it's just so refreshing to, you know, go into this. It's 34 minutes long, 8 tracks, no bullshit.
Yeah. I think that's just like indicative of her as an artist and her whole career too. It's like, even with your derided Joanne, I think like she is very specific in like the experience that she wants to give like her fans and like listeners, you know what I mean? Whether it be that or like, I think even like with Chromatica, like obviously Gaga wasn't the biggest fan of it because of like what she was personally going through. But in terms of like the holistic album itself, like trying to be this dance pop record in the pandemic, like she set out to do this one specific thing and delivered an album that like very specifically did that, you know, and it was like a whole well-rounded thing. Like with Mayhem, she set out to do this thing. She did the thing. Like she's doesn't feel like she skimps out or just like delivers sort of a half-baked album just because like she has to have an album due. It's like she's giving you an album when she has something to say and when she wants to say something so thoroughly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like that shows just her attention and care to her artistry instead of just kind of doing it for the sake of being a pop star. Like she cares about the music itself and not just the fame, so to speak.
Yeah, she's a method actor. Like she like envelops herself in a role every time. And like, yeah, she's I guess like the last song we'll talk about, like I just want to like kind of circle back on is Speechless. I just want to like shout that out again. I'm learning more and more about Gaga, but that, you know, her as a vocalist is just like, I think that goes underappreciated. Like, because she has like, I think she plays intentionally with like being her hooks being aggravating to the point of like, and it circles around to being catchy. You know, like Abracadabra and like Alejandro, Bad Romance. But like, I feel like this is just like showcasing her vocals. And my thought after listening to this is like, it made me want, maybe I'd actually really like Joanne or the Tony Bennett albums. Like maybe I'd really enjoy them. The other thing is just like,
she did it so well here.
Well, it's like even with like the Top Gun song, you know what I mean? Like when she's just belting, like baby, when she's belting, you were like, those vocals are vocaling. Oh my God.
I guess the thing I really want to get out here is just like, I went through a similar experience of just like my dad had like open heart surgery like 4 years ago. And like, I just like couldn't process that. I couldn't just process my, like, what do you mean he's not going to be there anymore? Like, you just like, and I just, so I couldn't even like process that. I couldn't even just like, I just like I went to my job. I went on dates. I just like had, while this was going on, because I just couldn't like sit and like think about that too long. And like, but it's also the reality of like, yeah, like I didn't, fortunately he's alive and fortunately it all went well, but I will one day have to deal with that. I will one day have to deal with that like loss and that grief. And like, yeah, I think it's just a really great song about just like appreciating the people you love while they're here. And like, it's a song about like how I made it like a meme of just like, you know, printed out the lyrics and like rap in Genius, and it just says, "I'll never talk again." And I was like, and then like I highlighted the rest of the lyrics and said like speech, but like, like, but it's true. It's that's representing something very honest. Just like talking about the times where you were rendered speechless, talking about the times where words, trying your best to like assemble words together to express this time where you couldn't bring it together. I think it's such a beautiful, in the middle of this just dark, spooky, synthetic album, just like this moment of like humanity, this moment of like rawness. I think it makes it even better. Maybe in an album where it's all this, like, or trying to do this, it's not as like impactful. It's like, that might be it.
Well, that's why, like, man, like this song just fucks so hard. Like it's so unique for what Gaga was at the time, you know, as she was still coming into her own, like still being like the meat dress, the bubbles, like, you know, paparazzi, like all these superheroes. And then she talked in interviews at the time about how, like, you know, clearly she had this inspiration from Bowie and, you know, all the great American songwriters. But like this song, that is just a bleeding heart, like piano rock song, did kind of come out of nowhere, where it's like, okay, well, Gaga was not just paying lip service. Like she actually intimately understands like what makes that type of song work. And in, you know, all of this wrestling with fame and celebrity culture, like, you know, just a couple songs in, there's this song that is like this tender piano rock ballad that's just her being human and begging her dad to stop drinking. And like the lyrics are just such like it's so beautiful, like the way that she even in the songs, like she's playing around with sexuality and gender a little bit, like when she's like, and all the boys and girls that we've been through and stuff like that, like playing with perspective and not giving a fuck about it, honestly. Like she's just the lyrics are her wrestling with the things to say to her dad, to be like, please stop. Like, I want you here. I could say a million good things about this song, but yeah, it fucking rules.
It's great.
And I don't doubt, Andrew, that it makes you want to listen to more rock oriented stuff, because it did the same for me. And nothing quite gets me high like that. Like she on Born This Way, maybe I can't remember the name. She used to do like these different characters. Joanne was like a character. What was the one that she did for the Fame Monster that was like Joey?
I should know this offhand. God.
Yeah. Where she is like the rocker guy.
Yeah, her personalities basically.
Yeah, well, she pretty much essentially tried to do Speechless again with You and I. Like that is like the
watch where you're walking on. You're walking on a thin line right here. Careful.
Okay.
I love that song.
No. I love You and I. You and I is a great song. I'm not going to shit talk it at all. I think the character thing that she attempted to inhabit was like a little much. But You and I, to me, is like,
well, I think Joker 2 is good.
No, okay, yeah. I mean, you can honestly disregard everything that I said in this episode. That's why I led with the worst possible take that I could have, that I believe. But You and I think is a fantastic song, but it is just to me, not quite as lofty version of Speechless.
Like you, I don't even know how you pronounce the U technically, because it has the two
with the umlaut.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, I like. Well, just circling back to the point we keep making, it's like, yes, she's like eclectic in her wardrobe and like her genre exploration, stuff like that. But she's not doing it to be random. She's doing it like, she's doing it to like try to get at a real emotional truth. And the genre, she finds it's like she gets the emotional truth first, and then she finds the genre to envelop the exploration with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We will never have another.
You're not a believer in Addison Rae?
I mean, look, I love sipping that Diet Pepsi, and in the summer I am your baby, but I don't know.
Wow. Stray observations of this, like stray observations, just things we haven't talked about that you'd like to shine attention to.
Owning the disc for like the extended was like truly a transcendent experience, because I feel like going into then the actual like just the Fame is so good, like just like the Fame in general, because I know they're so interlinked, but like the Love Game, Paparazzi, Poker Face, AA run in there is like out of this world. And then of course
it's
you get
crazy,
boys, Summer Boy, like all, it's just out of this world. Like, like how do you burst onto the scene with talent like that? It's fucking unbelievable.
It's also an interesting choice, I think, to put the Fame after the Fame Monster on the deluxe, because it's kind of like when you fuse together the narrative of it, like the Fame Monster is almost like this meta narrative, I guess, on it. And then, I think that it's interesting that Teeth is kind of like a show me what you got. Like, I can handle the truth. I can put it all on me. I'm stronger than whatever pain you can dish out. And then says the thing.
Back.
It's like, kind of how we got here.
Yeah.
I think that's like a cool little nugget.
I think we haven't mentioned him, but I think Red One, it's very indicative of the time.
Red wine.
Yeah. Wherever, like I, for the longest time, as everyone did, was like, red wine. Okay. Let's go. And it's just, it's like so indicative of that era of music where it was like shouting out your producer at the beginning. Like every Jay Sean song had it. Like it was just like every it felt like every 10 songs there would be just like a shout out for someone. And so the Red
Whatever
One,
happened to him?
exactly. I don't know.
Like where is Red One? The world needs him now more than ever.
I'm let me look up Red One right now because I need to know.
He was in that movie with Dwayne The Rock Johnson and Chris Evans.
Oh, of course. Yeah,
that
he
polar bear.
was the titular Red One.
Yeah, he was actually also this is a lesser known fact, but he was actually what they named Call of Duty Big Red One after.
Of course,
They
of course.
said, you know, he's up.
We
and
love that
coming.
producer. Like we love
Yeah,
their work.
he had
on
a
The
moment,
Fame Monster.
and then yeah, he's like Aang. You know, when the world needed him most, he vanished.
Okay, it looks like his last. Okay, so he like definitely slowed. Wow, I'm not recognizing any of these new ones.
Oh no.
Is he still doing it?
He's still doing it. Yeah, his last thing was with Enrique Iglesias Como Yo in 2024, a Carol Dolce song featuring Wiz Khalifa.
Wow.
What the hell?
You know,
Did he get like canceled or something?
that's what I'm
like,
now wondering.
Like what? How did he go from Gaga to this? All right,
Interesting.
Andrew, we're changing this podcast up. This is now an investigative podcast into
Yeah.
what happened to Red One.
Serial season 5 or whatever. But yeah, I guess like another like observation is like she takes after Andy Warhol is a huge inspiration for her, and like the inspirations are pretty obvious. But like I think what's really interesting are in the videos where there's so much product placement, and it's incorporated.
Are there Beats pills anywhere?
Yeah. It's like incorporated in the art. Like it's like kind of like
it's baked in.
Yeah, but it's like I think the pop art movement was in reaction to kind of post-war like kind of commercialism of just like how images and ads were like forced onto you, and then so by making pop art you're reflecting reality, and then you're also, and then this is doing the same thing. I'm just like, it's such a commercialized time, and the internet, the new internet version of it, and she's kind of like it kind of turns it from being something crass to something that could be artistic. Maybe it is still pretty crass, and that's like the pop art thing of like having all those soup cans and stuff. But
I think like it's interesting though, kind of as a time capsule of like, you know, recession pop, that like you go back there and watch any of those music videos and like it's Vivo and you see Beats pills everywhere. Yeah. So like Gaga was a little more self-aware on it than I think, you know, a lot of folks, where like you'd see it and then they would just try to play it off like, oh, I just happen to be using my Samsung, whatever the hell, non-iPhone smartphone that were like big at the time. So I think that's like kind of interesting. I actually don't really remember what she did. I didn't rewatch the music videos before we.
Oh wow. There's a Virgin Mobile one that's pretty egregious. Like it's very.
Oh hell yeah, yeah. What man? Virgin Mobile, they did have a moment back then.
Not anymore.
They got deflowered. So yeah, like.
All right.
Dear Lord.
Yeah.
I don't know. Look. It's been a while. I'm rusty. So yeah, like those are well, let's go through final thoughts and ratings. The way this works is we'll rate this album out of 10, a fun metric at the end. Yeah, who would like to go first with that?
No, yeah. I think I mean again, I'm the least objective listener, and I know that I have my biases. That said, like I think that this album and most of Gaga's work is just like unbelievably so, especially if we're looking at it just through like a pop lens, so masterful. And I think it's just sort of like we should be so lucky to have her creating art like this. You know, I don't know if we'll ever have, I mean, we obviously will, but like just her place, I think, in pop culture at this time, doing this album. And then just like you honestly bring up the Katy Perry bit, and just like me, then I was just scrolling, looking at other songs that came out around the same time. I'm just like, no one was putting out, especially in the pop music scene, such well-rounded, thoughtful, emotional pop music. And I mean, like, I think that continues for Gaga. So I would, just 10. Fuck it. Why not?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I got to give this this album a 10. I think I got to do that. The only thing that makes me waver a little bit, are my feelings on Telephone, specifically the Beyonce part. But I think all the solo Gaga tracks, like there's not really much that I can say. Like, it's difficult to talk about this album without just sounding like a crazed fan because that's what this album turns me into. I'm goo for Gaga. Mm-hmm. I think that this is a significant achievement in the pop landscape. I don't think that you can tell the story of pop or the 2000s or the recession. Let's take it to whatever heights we need to. No level of conversation is too high or beyond this album. It's just so great. It moved what pop music could be, what a pop album means to people. It's fantastic. And it's got some of my favorite pop songs of all time on there. Couldn't ask for much else. I think that she has yet to top this. But I'm a big fan of a lot of her other work too. I'm not quite a little monster, but I'm little monster curious.
You're a tiny monster.
I'm a tiny monster.
We'll get you. Don't worry.
Yeah. I'll check under my bed and in the,
we're always there, always lurking, always ready.
I think just like straight out the gate, like this showcases Gaga as a master of her craft, saying something really interesting and important, and creating, catharsis and solidarity, reflecting dread, reflecting joy, reflecting yearning so excellently. I love the maximalist production. I love the performance art surrounding it, the cinematic like music videos, making these events, these like obelisks of excellence that like inform the next like 15, 20 years in a really awesome way. Yeah. And just like really awesome, social commentary too. But then it just moves you too. It just like is entertaining. And I think that's like really, really important. It's like, it goes beyond just like quote unquote important to actually important and then enjoyable and, revolutionary in so many ways. So yeah, I'll give it 9. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So
where's the point shaved off for you?
I think we didn't even get to this. Like the song I like the least is Alejandro. Just like in terms of
whoa. I'm pulling the e-brake here. We're not ending the episode. You got to expand on that.
Andrew, just let me go. Oh my God. What the actual hell?
I love
this
the video.
This is a scorching take.
I love the video. It's my least favorite of the blockbuster singles.
Expand on that.
You know that I hate you, boy.
Yeah.
I think just the only issue it's like such a light.
Yeah.
I'm like treading very lightly here.
Live your truth. Live your truth. I need to now know.
Yeah, the whole final song of the album is about how we, give us, show us your teeth.
Yeah, get your teeth out.
My only thing is like we're talking about like the she plays with like aggravating choruses. I just think like Alejandro, it's like it's a little like on the more aggravating side, intentionally aggravating side than like this is like cool and catchy and stuff side. But like, I think it's great. I still think it's a fantastic song. I love the video. I like the, that's it.
You cannot like it. I support you. I disagree, but I support you, Mm-hmm. Interesting. Wow. I never would have guessed that in a million years.
Yeah. I take it back. Not my Joker 2 take, but my Joker 2 take being the hottest take of this episode.
It's true. That is the hottest take of the app.
Yeah, hot like Mexico. Will the audience enjoy? To be determined.
So yeah, that was our review of The Pain Monster by Lady Gaga. Yeah, like this is our thank you so much, Jordan. Thank you so much for like spending the time and like allowing us to exposing me to this. I'm really happy we get to explore this. I'm really happy. This is just like a blind spot for me. And my thought up until this point was like, it's not really for me. I respect it. I appreciate it. I appreciate like the historic importance, but it's not for me. I think listening to this now, it's like, oh, this is for me also. Like this is like, this is something I enjoy. Obviously it's not for me, but it's something I really enjoy and appreciate even as just like a consumer and as appreciator of art. So.
Are you?
No, it's beautiful.
Would you say that you're little monster status now?
I'm like 4-inch tall monster. Like,
well, that is a little. It doesn't matter
I
how
guess a
little
monster
the monster is. Like that is the point.
I can be littler though. Like,
you got to put your paws up. You know. I think like one last thing on Lady Gaga is that if Gaga says her name in a song, you know you're in for like a 5-star banger. I think like anytime she says her name in some way, shape, or form, it's just a good song.
Wait, what's an example of that?
Like any, I mean, just like Abracadabra recently. It's just like the way like she weaves in Gaga. Like anytime she like says Gaga in a song, you know you're in for a treat.
When her saying Gaga in a song is like Goku announcing he's about to do a Kamehameha or like a spirit bomb, you know, it's like an anime character announcing their attack. Yes. And you're like, oh shit, I'm like, fuck.
It's coming.
So yeah, like Jordan, anything you'd like to plug, anything you'd like to
Oh God.
You have a Queer Quadrant.
I do, yeah.
What a fantastic show. I love listening every so often when I get to listen. Yeah.
I co-host a podcast with my good friend Brooke, Queer Quadrant. She does the plugging usually, so this is where I falter. But we look at 4 quadrant movies and examine like this queer subtext and or text within them, whether intentional or unintentional. It's fun. We get to talk about a lot of fun movies, or sometimes not so great ones. We just did like Casino Royale and Bend It Like Beckham. So, you know, those are
hell yeah.
Just absolute stone cold bangers.
I'm intrigued by those 2 shout outs.
You know, the dichotomy of life, you know, and we're coming up with our 5th year. So we're doing our anniversary up is Brokeback Mountain. So very excited for that.
So exciting. Do you know who the guest? Like, you don't have to say it on the episode, but do you know who the guest is?
It's just us. I can say that we can't do a guest on that because if the pressure's too high, you know, we can only carry the burden on ourselves. But yeah, I mean, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever. And then you can find me on the internet everywhere, Instagram, Twitter, Gus, you know, lurking, posting, dying as the world ends. So
yeah. I really like check out the Shrek episode with Caitlin Durante. The Tar episode is really funny, like with Phil Iscove, our friend of our pod too. And Dakota, thank you so much for like showing up and like doing your thing, like just like showing me out, like truly, like I was just like happy to witness and watch you go. You know, I'm really very excited for the new season of our show.
I'm just happy to be here. You know, it's an honor as always. And Jordan, it's great having you on.
Happy first episode.
Thank you. This was a good time. Love this album dearly. You know, enjoyed talking about it with you guys.
You can follow me at Andrew Ambrose Lee. You can follow Dakota at _with_fun.
You're better about that than I am.
Yeah. Dakota is a very funny account, like very funny Instagram presence. It's very delightful. He needs more followers. And follow the show at IBMTLTT on all platforms. Subscribe on YouTube or on wherever you get your podcasts. And Jordan, any final sentiments before we let you go?
Little monsters, put your paws up.
Abracadabra, abracadabra. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good day. Click.